They told her she was worthless. They said she had nothing. But she was about to prove that a hero isn't what you have, but what you're willing to give. Around her, a crowd was forming. Phones were raised, their screens glowing in the night, capturing the tragedy from a safe distance. A man's voice could be heard, detached and distant. Someone should do something, he said to no one in particular. But no one moved. They just watched. They just filmed. All except for one person. The crisis. The woman they all ignored was named Sarah. For 2 years, her bed had been unforgiving concrete, her only shield from the world a thin, threadbare blanket. Tonight, she was huddled on a park bench across the street, the cold seeping into her bones, when the smell of smoke first hit her. It started as a wisp, then a plume of black, and then the first angry orange tongues of fire began to lick the side of a grand, 2-story house. Then she heard it. A sound, faint at first, almost lost in the crackle of the blaze, that cut straight into her heart. It was the high-pitched, desperate cry of a child. Sarah's eyes darted around. People were gathering now, their faces lit by the growing inferno. They were pointing, gasping, their phones held up like offerings to the disaster. But their feet were planted firmly on the safe side of the street. The sirens were still just a distant wail, minutes away, an eternity for the child trapped inside. For a moment, Sarah was frozen. Not by the cold, but by a fear that was just as chilling. She had nothing. No home, no family, no one in the world who would miss her. The fire was a roaring beast, and she was fragile. This wasn't her fight. But the crying, it grew louder, more frantic. It was the sound of a small life about to be extinguished. Sarah thought of everything she had lost, the ghosts of a past she could never outrun. She couldn't save them. But maybe, just maybe, she could save this one. The selfless act. In one decisive moment, something in her snapped. The fear on Sarah's face was replaced by a fierce resolve. She cast her worn blanket aside, the only thing she owned, and sprinted toward the house. "Hey! What are you doing?" a man yelled from the crowd. "It's too dangerous." "Are you crazy?" another voice shouted. She didn't hear them. The only sound in her world was the child's cry. The front of the house was an impassable wall of flames, but she remembered seeing a side door near the garden. She raced around the building, the heat growing more intense with every step. The door was locked. Without hesitating, Sarah grabbed a large garden stone and smashed a low window. Glass shattered, and a wave of thick, choking smoke billowed out. Pulling her thin sweater over her mouth, she crawled through the jagged opening, ignoring the sharp sting of glass slicing her skin. Inside was hell. The smoke was a solid, black thing, stealing the air from her lungs and blinding her. The heat was a suffocating weight pressing in from all sides. "Hello?" she croaked, her voice a whisper against the roar. "I'm here to help. Where are you?" She crawled forward, her hands sweeping the floor. The crying was coming from upstairs. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to flee, to save herself. But she pushed onward, pulling herself up the stairs, one agonizing step at a time as the wood groaned under the heat. Upstairs, the smoke was even thicker. She called out again and heard a weak whimper from a room at the end of the hall. Pushing the door open, she saw her, a little girl, no older than 4, huddled in a corner and clutching a teddy bear. "It's okay," Sarah said, her voice somehow gentle. "I'm going to get you out of here." She scooped the child into her arms, wrapped a small blanket from the crib around the girl's head, and turned to leave. But the hallway was now erupting in flames. A wooden beam overhead cracked and crashed just inches from where they stood. There was no time. Holding the child tightly, Sarah ran. She stumbled down the stairs, her lungs burning, her vision blurring, and burst back through the broken window onto the cool, wet grass. She collapsed to her knees, gasping for air, just as the first fire truck screeched to a halt. The arrival. Paramedics rushed toward Sarah, taking the crying but unharmed child and placing an oxygen mask over Sarah's own soot-blackened face. She was exhausted, overwhelmed, and barely conscious. Suddenly, a black luxury sedan tore down the street and screeched to a stop. A man in a tailored suit, his face a mask of pure terror, leaped from the driver's side without even closing the door. "Lily," he screamed, his voice raw with panic. "My daughter." His eyes scanned the scene frantically until he saw her, his little girl, safe in the arms of a paramedic. A wave of relief so powerful it almost brought him to his knees washed over him. He rushed to his daughter, hugging her tightly. After a moment, he looked up, his gaze sweeping over the crowd of onlookers. "Who?" he demanded, his voice booming with authority. "Who saved her? Where are they?" A sudden, uncomfortable silence fell over the crowd. The people who had been so eager to film the disaster now avoided his gaze, looking down at their shoes. A few pointed vaguely toward the ambulance, where paramedics were now tending to Sarah on a stretcher. The discovery. The man, Mr. Thompson, followed their hesitant gestures. He saw the dirty, torn clothes, the matted hair, the face covered in soot. But beneath all that, he saw the person who had walked through fire for his child. He saw a hero. He approached the stretcher slowly, his expensive shoes sinking into the damp lawn. His eyes, full of unshed tears, met hers. You're the one?" he asked, his voice cracking with emotion. "You saved my daughter?" Sarah, weak and struggling to breathe, could only manage a slow, tired nod. Mr. Thompson knelt beside her, ignoring the mud staining his suit. "You risked everything," he whispered, his voice thick with a gratitude so profound it was almost painful. "For a stranger. For my family. For my whole world." He took her soot-covered hand in his. "I don't know your name. I don't know your story. But I swear to you, that is going to change. From this moment on, you will never have to worry about a single thing for the rest of your life. I give you my word." He turned to the paramedic. "Give her the best care possible," he commanded. "The very best. Every single bill, you send it directly to my office. No expense spared." The new life. While the story of Sarah and Mr. Thompson feels like a modern-day fairy tale, the incredible courage it portrays is very real. Heroes pop up in the most unexpected places. In Indiana, a pizza delivery driver named Nicholas Bostic suffered severe injuries after running into a burning home to save 5 children. In Phoenix, a homeless man named Joe Hollins was hailed as an angel after he heard a mother's screams and caught her 2 young daughters as she dropped them from a second-story window of a burning building. In Sweden, a mother named Emma Scholes was burned over 93% of her body after she repeatedly went back into her family's burning home to save all 6 of her children. These aren't fictional characters, they're real people who, when faced with a life-or-death moment, chose to act with extraordinary bravery. For Sarah, Mr. Thompson's promise was the beginning of a new life. He visited her every day in the hospital, where she was treated for smoke inhalation and minor burns. When she was discharged, there was no talk of returning to the streets. Instead, a car was waiting to take her to a beautiful, fully furnished apartment. She stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face as she looked at a clean bed, a full kitchen, and a closet full of new clothes. A week later, Mr. Thompson sat with her in her new living room. "I run a multi-billion-dollar company, Sarah," he said quietly. "I've spent my life chasing deals and profits. But in that one moment, when I thought I had lost my daughter, none of it mattered. You have a heart of gold. I want you to help me give back. I'm starting a new foundation to help homeless families get a second chance. And I want you to run it. We'll call it the Sarah Foundation." The final scene isn't of a fire, but of a sunny day in a park. Sarah, looking healthy and confident, is pushing a laughing Lily on a swing. Mr. Thompson stands nearby, watching them with a smile that finally reaches his eyes. Conclusion and CTA. Sarah's life was changed not by money, but by a single act of courage. It's a powerful reminder that heroism isn't measured by what's in your pockets, but by what's in your heart. So what did we learn today? True worth isn't about wealth or status, but about our compassion for others. In every moment, we have a choice, to look away, or to help. Share this video if you believe in kindness. And for more stories that inspire, don't forget to subscribe.